Right, hello everybody. It is Rodog Speaks, back with a stream for the first time in ages, actually. The first Sunday stream that I've done in a while. And yeah, here I am. So yeah, if you want to subscribe to my channel and comment down below if you've got any topics that you want to share, any comments. I thought today that we'd spend a little bit of time talking about the topics of the week, the news stories of the week. So we've got a few obvious ones. We've got the Thames Water debacle that they may or may not be renationalised because they've got themselves in so much debt, or hot water, I should say, excuse the pun. So we'll be talking about Thames Water and that whole sort of ongoing news story. And also the issue about water sort of pollution in general in this country, and the fact that it's just been so mismanaged by actually lots of water companies, not just Thames Water. Just the fact that they've been steadily, continuously polluting rivers and seas through sort of dump pipes into waterways for a long time, and the fact that it just seems to be baked into their sort of strategy, financial plan, that they get fined for dumping sewage, and it doesn't really matter. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll also discuss the NHS Workforce Plan that was announced on Friday in relation to NHS recruitment and retention, and the government's sort of response to how they're going to get the NHS sort of back up and running, working better than it has been, and sort of the cost benefit to that, and whether it will work or not, and what the criticism and reaction has been to the issues of what it doesn't contain. So like pay, for example, which is a biggie, which has always been a biggie in the NHS, the fact that doctors and nurses and all staff haven't been paid very well at all, in line with the rate of inflation, etc. So that's another thing to discuss, given that it's the 75th anniversary of the NHS. And also we will be talking about the Labour Party and Keir Starmer, and whether or not they are a fit opposition, or indeed a fit government in waiting, given the actions of Keir Starmer towards other more sort of left-wing members of the party, including people who have just said things like quite innocuous things on Twitter and been suspended and expelled for saying said innocuous things. So, you know, just how bad is that, and just like how generally crap Labour have been over the past year or so, and all its U-turns and going back on pledges, etc. Depressing. So yeah, really good to join you this Sunday afternoon. So let's get into the first topic. So I'm going to share my screen with you and show you the first topic that we are going to talk about today. So just give me a moment. Okay, so Thames Water. This is a talking point this week, given that Thames Water is basically, it's one of the biggest water companies in England, and it's about 14 million, is it 14 million or 14 billion? We'll find out, in debt. So this is a Sky News article. So Thames Water is England's biggest water company, and it's in trouble. Here's what you need to know about its debt and possibility of a government takeover. So 1 in 4 people in Britain rely on Thames Water for their supply, but there is a question mark over the company's future. That's because of its 14 billion debt. It needs to pay some of that back soon and is trying to secure extra cash as the government considers whether it will need to step in. So basically take it back into state control. Here's what you need to know about what's happening at England's largest water company. Thames Water is sitting on a £14 billion debt pile. A debt pile is exactly what it sounds like, an accumulation of debt. In Thames Water's case, the debt started to accumulate after it was privatised in 1989. So from my history of sort of Thatcher era politics isn't that great, but I know that a lot of stuff under Thatcher was privatised, like utilities, including water, rail, train companies were privatised. I mean, I guess you could say that Thatcher went on a sort of privatisation spree in the 80s, which is how we've ended up where we are now and have got lots of private companies, excluding the health service, which is sort of on its way to being privatised if we don't do something. But hey ho, off the point. So basically, all the water companies, of which there are about 7 in this country, are all under the sort of ownership of these companies. And so a large proportion of the debt was building up during the 11 years it was under the ownership of Australian investment bank Macquarie. Is that how you say that? By the time it was sold in 2017, it had a debt pile of 10 billion. High interest rates in the past year have added to the debt. About 10% of the 14 billion debt pile is due to be paid at the end of this year as a bond matures. A scramble to secure extra cash, Thames Water has said it's working constructively with shareholders to find the necessary funds, reportedly 1 billion. It received 500 million from shareholders in March. Its largest shareholders, Ontario Municipal Employees Retirement System, a vast Canadian pension fund. Others include China's Sovereign Wealth Fund, the University's Superannuation Scheme, the UK's biggest private pension fund, and Abu Dhabi's Infinity Investments. I mean, really, like, let's just pause here for a sec, because you really just got to think to yourself, like, who are the shareholders of these companies, these British, well, companies that are residing in the United Kingdom, but are owned by foreign investors? That, I mean, it's just got to make you laugh, doesn't it? It really, oh God. I mean, they're the people that are making the money out of us. They're making money out of us, the taxpayer and the bill payer, who are basically giving money to these water companies just so that foreign businesses and institutions can profit out of it. What? Gosh, it's hilarious. It really is just hilarious. If you honestly, guys, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. That's the truth of it. This is the reality of our water companies in this country. They are all owned by foreign investors who probably don't pay their taxes in this country. That's the truth of it. Will the government step in? The government has confirmed it has contingency plans if Thames Water is not able to repay its debts, but has not revealed the details, obviously. On Wednesday, Sky News revealed the government is discussing placing Thames Water into a special administration regime that would effectively take the company into temporary public ownership if it collapses. This kind of insolvency process was used when the energy supplier Bulb collapsed in 2021, sparking concerns that it could cost taxpayers billions of pounds. The government response would ensure service was still provided to all Thames Water customers. What does it mean for customers' bills? Well, apparently Thames Water have said that all customers have been assured that absolutely nothing will happen to their bills, even though it has been suggested that customer bills will probably go up as a result of them needing to pay their debts, and also as well to look after the infrastructure of all the various sewage and pipe works, etc. even though they're already making massive amounts of profits. It stinks. It literally does stink. Health Minister Neil O'Brien told Sky News absolutely nothing is going to happen in terms of either their bills or their access to water. We have contingency plans like we do in all of these network utilities to manage any difficult situations. What controversy has Thames Water faced? Thames Water has come under intense pressure in recent years because of its poor record on leaked sewage contamination, executive pay and shareholder dividends. Here we go. In 2021, it was fined $4 million for allowing untreated sewage to escape into a river and park, and in the same year was ordered to pay $11 million for overcharging thousands of customers. It was hit with a record $20.3 million fine in 2017 for repeatedly allowing raw sewage to flow into the Thames just a year after it had paid the largest fine for a single pollution incident of £1 million. And then this bit just talks about the chief exec who resigned because of it, and also giving up her bonus, and then her successor, who is the chief financial officer, Alistair Cochrane, and the strategy and regulatory affairs director. So there you go. That's what's happening with Thames Water at the moment. Okay, so yeah, that's that article. So yeah, it's just the fact that just like the water companies in general are just milking it from customers and taxpayers. Not just the fact that their Thames Water in particular is in massive amounts of debt, and we don't know at this point whether they are going to have a government takeover of it, like they did with I can't remember the name of the rail service. Was it? Oh, I can't remember. But yeah, like a couple of years ago, the government had to sort of temporarily take over one of the rail operators because they were having problems as well, which just goes to prove like we should really have nationalised water companies in this country. Like, heaven forfend, like why did it ever happen in the first place? Like, I really think Margaret Thatcher has like so much to answer for. Like I'm going to reveal my age now, folks, but I wasn't even alive in the era of Thatcher. But I mean, God, like privatizing water companies amongst all the other stuff that she's privatized. I mean, you've got gas, electric, rail, water. It just seems absolutely ridiculous that you would try to, succeed in selling off all of these assets to your country. Like, if you consider like water by itself is it's a right, like a human right. Like, you say, you just, as human beings, we need these things to survive. So we need like a roof over our heads, food and water, obviously. And if we can't afford to get water out of the taps, or like are drinking and swimming in dirty, disgusting, sewage ridden water, that's not a good thing. And if it's put in the hands of private, often very wealthy, foreign, overseas business people and companies and massive conglomerates, then that's really not a very good place to be, because often they're not paying taxes in this country. They're not here to sort of oversee everything and make sure everything is safe for us, the customer, and they end up not really caring very much about what is what the British consumer is consuming. So yeah, there's that. And like, why on earth, like, it's not as if, like, because I can only think of a few water companies off the top of my head. So we've got Thames Water, Severn Trent is another, is it Anglian is another, there's probably stuff up north like Yorkshire Water, another, other water companies, like, you let me know in the comments like what your water company is and if it's any good, and if they've been doing any sewage dumping of recent years, recent months, because that's another big issue that I know that Fergal Sharkey, who is a activist and environmental campaigner, has been doing quite a lot of work on and raising awareness of these companies dumping sewage into rivers illegally and greatly harming wildlife and ecosystems in rivers and seas, etc. And it's all just really, really crap. It's just so rubbish. It's almost as if it's like sort of baked into their company, like, sort of strategy scheme, is that it's part of their, yeah, we'll just pay off fines and it won't really affect us very much because we're like really rich and wealthy anyway, and it won't really affect our bottom line. And it's just ridiculous. So yeah, he's been raising a lot of awareness about that. And yeah, sorry. So I was going to say, off the top of my head, I can only think of a few water companies, but I think like there's only about 7. I'm just going to Google this. Just give me a moment. How many water companies are there in the UK? 11 water companies in England and Wales. There are 11 regional water and wastewater companies and a further 6 water-only companies in England and Wales. So this is the Parliament website. Oh gosh, they do it all by constituency. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. So if there's only 11 water companies in the whole of England and Wales, folks, it's not really like, and it's per like region. It's not really as if you can go, oh my goodness, I'm really fed up with my water company, like, that's feeding me bad water and is doing me a really bad deal in my contract. I'd like to switch to another water company. You can't really do that because, you know, they're all sort of regionalised by like area of the country, and those are the people that are supplying your water. So it's not like you can just sort of like go to a different supplier, because it doesn't really work like that. So they've really got like a monopoly over customers who don't have a choice over what water that they're using, because it's, you know, and it very much like, I don't know, it sounds really mind-boggling. It's almost as if, like, imagine they, at some point, someone tried to privatize the air and we paid for the air that we breathed, and like, oh, but this is a different kind of air compared to the air that this company owns, and I'm going to try and persuade you to pay for this difference. I don't know. But no, it's just like the issue of water in this country and who owns it, and like the cleanliness of it, and the fact that we've allowed this to happen over decades is an absolute travesty. That they've been allowed to make these absolutely disgusting, like egregious, eye-watering profits over decades since they were privatized in the 80s, and they've not really paid any consequences for it, and they've been giving profits and bonuses to their bosses, to their shareholders, and instead of actually doing their job and investing the cash that we pay for into regulating the water supply and making sure that all the, excess storm surge water that happens when there's, bad weather doesn't get pumped into rivers and instead get sent to like water treatment centres that have been, updated to a good standard. So it means that they don't have to be sent somewhere else on the cheap because it doesn't cost anything. That's why they do it. That's why these water companies pump this crap into the water, because it doesn't cost them anything. Having it does cost them because they end up getting fined. But like I said, that's factored in to their company's like fiscal like plan, that they probably know that they're going to get fined, but at the end of the day, they're making so much profit that a couple of £1 million isn't really very much, and they probably won't miss it. So, and it's just horrendous. It's so horrendous. And all the while, us as customers, as consumers, as people who live in this country, whether you live in the north, south, east, west, if you live in Kent, if you live in Cornwall, if you live in Yorkshire, if you live in London, we all get affected the same way. And we all like to go to the beach, and we all like to go in the sea and go like wild swimming and enjoy the summer weather, and go fishing if we want to, and take our kids out to the seaside. And what we don't want to see when we're out, on our jollies, trying to have a nice enjoy what's left of what we can of this country that's like slowly being broken up into thousands of pieces. We're trying to enjoy it, and these water companies are just like pumping shit into the rivers. There's like dead fish, dead birds, dead seals, even plant life in the water, just because of the state of the water has just become so like acidic, or like compared to how it's meant to be. Like there's just so much damage being done to wildlife and habitat and stuff that it's making the rivers just die. Rivers are just dying because they've just had crap pumped into it. Everything from like feces to stuff that people put down the loo that they shouldn't be, like condoms and tampons and gross stuff like that. It's disgusting. It's disgusting, yes. But that's what's happening. And yeah, it's gross. It's gross. And we don't want to see it. And it's happening more and more. And like there's a map that you can go on to look at where the sewage pumps are around the coastline or on rivers. So I'll see if I can find that for you. And I've just seen that Cameron has added a comment on the side saying, rebuilding our largely Victorian sewage system would cost billions. Utility companies won't do it. Yeah, well, I think lots of things are going to cost a lot of money, but I think that's only because it's not been invested in years, and it's just been allowed to degrade because people don't want to pay for it. And I'm sorry, but people have to, like, we all have to pay for stuff, and if you leave it long enough, it's just going to get, the problem is just going to get worse and worse and worse, to the point where it will cost you more in the long term because you decided to just leave it because you think it's going to be too costly. And now it is very costly. It's very much like our next story, the NHS. That's going to cost a lot of money to bring it back up to levels from 13 years ago at least. But we all have to pay for things, and I wish the government would be told that more, because it's like they don't want to pay for things. It's why we can't have nice things, because the government don't want to pay for it, and we all have to live in a state of filth because government don't want to pay for stuff. And it's a vicious circle of underfunding, underinvestment. This is what it leads to. And I'm sorry, but it's actually, no, I'm not sorry, but that's the government's fault. It's government's fault for ideologically choosing just to ignore the things that need fixing in this country. And they've been ignoring it for such a long time out of, I don't know, ignorance or ideology or just greed, or that's just not what they want to do. But yeah, if like I said, if you leave stuff for that long, and you don't invest in it, and you just don't give it the money that it needs, and you don't give it the resources that it needs, if we're talking about sewage systems, about pipe work, about sewage treatment works, etc., then it's going to the problem is going to deteriorate, and it has, and we're seeing it play out in front of us, and that's a result of a capitalist society, or the capitalist world we live in, which really just rewards greed, and craps on the rest of us. So yeah, that's the state of the waterways. I will quickly try and find this map. See, map of sewage outlets. Okay. This is the Rivers Trust. Let's see. View the sewage map. Great. Right, I'm going to share this. Just a minute. Ooh. Sewage map. Okay. This map shows where the Sewerage Network. I didn't realise this was a word until recently. I just thought it was sewage. But apparently sewerage is also a word, which I didn't realise. This map shows where the Sewerage Network discharges treated sewage and other overflows of untreated sewage and stormwater into rivers in England in 2022. Please note we are still waiting for spill data. Okay. Let's zoom in. So as you can see, there's quite a lot. There's quite a lot of outflows. So I'm in Gloucestershire at the minute. So oh my word, there's absolutely loads. See, there's thousands and thousands. Look, this is all along the coast of South Devon and Cornwall. What's that one? East for Southwest Water. Oh, and it gives information about how many times it's spilled. So this particular pipe overspilled 163 times for a total of 1,454.40 hours discharging into the unknown coastal. That's really bad. What else? So this is awful. So there's another one here. This is Buckland, Newton, Wessex Water. In 2022, this sewer storm overflow spilled 107 times for a total of 169. Sorry, I don't know why I can't read numbers today. 1,690 hours. Okay, and literally all along the coast and up, in little rivers, streams, waterways, etc. There's all these pipes and all these overflows. It's insane. This is how you can find out this stuff, like all these little villages, and it'll tell you like how many overflows there's been and how many spillages. Yeah, really bad. Can we go in a bit further? No, what's that? So some of them aren't monitored by the looks of it. Steventon. So they're not, the ones in like the white balls aren't monitored, and then the yellow boxes. Oh, sewage discharge is final treated, discharging into the Shanbrook River. The yellow one, the yellow points show where treated sewage is discharged into rivers. This includes effluent from sewage treatment works as well as smaller domestic sewage treatment plants. Treated sewage discharges can also pose a risk to public health. In some cases, harmful bacteria levels in treated sewage can be many times higher than the minimum public health standards for bathing waters. It is best to avoid entering. Okay, so we've got the yellow pointers, which are treated sewage, but still should be avoided because they are contain effluent and bacteria, which is not healthy at all. And then the brown ones are sewer storm overflows and emergency overflows, which have monitoring equipment installed to record how often they discharge. Okay. So yeah, as you can see, quite a lot of sewage outlets on this map. There are many, 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 many. And yes, that's Manchester. And then you've got quite a few dotted around London. And so yeah, that's really bad. And this is the riverstrust.org. So if you want to go and have a look at that, then you can do, and be equally shocked and appalled as I am about the level of sewage being discharged every day into the sea and into the rivers in this country. So yeah, that's the water story, folks. Now I think we're going to move on and deal with the NHS Workforce Plan. So the NHS Workforce Plan that was announced in the last week. So I will go on and share my screen for that. So the NHS Workforce Plan, and what has been the reaction? So, cautious welcome for long-awaited plans to plug staff shortages, but the elephant in the room is pay. It has been 6 years in the making, but finally Minister's big pitch on how to fix the NHS is here in the form of a 15-year plan to plug the staff shortages that are contributing to the crumbling services. The 151-page NHS Workforce Plan sets out how thousands more doctors and nurses will be trained in England. It is intended to fill more than 100,000 doctor, nurse and other health worker vacancies and create more to preempt future increased demand, save on the expense of agency staff and reduce the health service's increasing reliance on foreign workers. I already sound very sceptical of this. Unveiling the plan, Rishi Sunak described it as the most ambitious transformation in the way we staff the NHS in its history. The Prime Minister said it would protect the long-term future of the NHS in this country by responding to the increased strain that an ageing population is putting on the health service. I'll just stop there for a second, only because I'm really sceptical of like what this actually includes and what it contains, more specifically what it doesn't contain. So this really looks at sort of like staff recruitment and like retention and their aims to fill all these vacant posts within the health service. But most importantly, like, this plan does not include increasing pay, which is, you know, we've all seen it in the news. Like, doctors and nurses and all NHS staff have been striking for this reason, to get better pay, and it's not included in this health plan, in this workforce plan. So that's one massive thing that they've missed out. And the other massive thing that they've missed out is social care. Like, nobody wants to deal with this. Like, it's such a massive problem and it needs a solution, and nobody wants to deal with it. Social health care and social care work hand in hand. It's all very well saying that, oh, we need to like recruit all these doctors and nurses. Like, firstly, where are you going to get them from if you're not prepared to pay them anymore? That's not really an incentive. But also, like, if you can't get people out of the hospital, and like a vast number of people that need to leave the hospital need care in the community, which is extremely sparse at the moment. Yeah, they're just not getting it. And I know that social care is a massive, massive thing that, again, is going to cost a lot of money, but it needs to be dealt with. Like, people need somewhere to go and to be looked after that isn't in the hospital, because hospitals are for primary care, really, and not for social care. And the longer somebody stays in hospital, the more likely it is that they're going to catch something and become ill with something else. And people, like, especially elderly, frail, vulnerable people, do not want to spend months and months and months in a hospital bed. They don't. And there's nowhere for them to go. And social care just is falling apart at the seams, because there's nobody there's no, like, the care homes are all like full up, and there's no like care in the community that will look after them. So what are they going to do? Like, it's not been debated or talked about at all. It's like they said, like an elephant in the room. So yeah, I'm just going to take a sip of my drink. So the document states that the number of people over the age of 85 is expected to grow by 55% by 2037, and this risks resulting in a shortfall of between 260,000 and 360,000 staff by 2036-37. The plan, which will be refreshed every 2 years, sets out how the NHS will have 300,000 extra doctors, nurses, and other health professionals by 2037. It will achieve this in 3 key ways: training, retention, and reform. So this goes on to talk about places in medical school going up, expansion in adult nursing training places, nursing and midwifery, more apprenticeships, dentistry. That'll be interesting. Training more NHS staff domestically is intended to reduce reliance on international recruitment, nearly a quarter of staff at present to about 10% of the workforce. On retention, the goal is to keep 130,000 more staff in NHS over the next 15 years through pensions reform, which will make it easier to partially retire or to return to work, and culture change to address staff concerns about overwork and bullying. And this will cost £2.4 billion in extra funding over the next 5 years to pay for the planned increase in health professionals, which will include the training of many more midwives and physiotherapists. Okie dokie. And then the reaction: The plan has been cautiously welcomed by many health leaders, not least because it is seen as long overdue. Ministers first promised to publish a long-term strategy to tackle understaffing in 2017. NHS bosses have been saying in recent years that lack of staff is the greatest hindrance to patient care. Compared with other OECD countries, the UK is well below the average number of nurses and medics for the population size. Skip. The elephant in the room, according to Hospital Consultants and Specialists Association, is the plan does not address pay, which has been the subject of a wave of strikes this year. The British Medical Association said this was illogical and uneconomical, as it would not stop the exodus of doctors from the profession. Yeah. So if you're not addressing pay, and I've heard like a lot of people on the radio saying, like lots of nurses and doctors calling in saying, I'm thinking about leaving and going to Australia because the pay and conditions are better, and because they're just miserable doing their job. Like it's not what they envisioned themselves to be doing as a part of the NHS. Like if your job is miserable and you're overworked and underpaid, you don't want to be doing that job. Even though, you know, I think a lot of people in the government, especially like the health ministers, like Steve Barclay, God, I just think that they think that because working in the NHS as a nurse, you know, as a consultant, as a porter, as a whomever, it's a vocational job because you don't do it for the money, but and I think they just rely on people's goodwill to just do what they want because it's their help. They're there to help people and they care. But you know, it's all very well saying, you know, oh, it's a vocational career, and you know, you don't go into the NHS to make lots of money. But at the end of the day, people still need to feed themselves and house themselves, and they still need to be able to afford things. And you know, if you get back from work and you can't afford to put food on the table, then that's a whole different matter, isn't it? And of course, that's going to encourage you to try and, you know, if you can go and get a different, better job in a different country, you know, that suddenly starts looking quite appealing, doesn't it? And that's really sad because I think the government know this, like Rishi Sunak, Steve Barclay, and the rest of them. They know what effect they are having on NHS staff, and they're being so demonized deliberately, you know, saying that, you know, they don't want to come to the table, they don't want to negotiate, you know, they're being too demanding. And it wasn't only a couple of years ago where we were all clapping for them on doorstep saying what a brilliant job that they're doing, rightly so, during COVID, putting themselves through hell to try and look after people. And what do we give them in return? Not a lot. And just turning our backs on them and saying, you know, we can't afford, we don't want to give you this pay rise, even though you deserve it and more. And I think, you know, the government are just awful at responding to crises. And they're just really, I think they're just really badly mistreating NHS staff and treating them with such disdain. And it's just really disgusting to just see that play out to people who really, really don't deserve it. You know, we all rely on, you know, the NHS, like whether at any point in our lives we're gonna have to rely on them for our healthcare. And you know, we should look after them because they look after us, and the government are just trying to wear them down, like to the point where they're almost giving up on striking because like there's nothing else left. And that's just the most tragic thing because they're just being so worn down. And what else can they do? But here we are. So where was I? The HCSA said there was already a bottleneck of trainees unable to progress into specialisms because of lack of consultants and placements to train them, and the plan was worryingly vague on how it would address this. Plans to have some medical work carried out by non-doctors could put patients at higher risk. So that's basically like if you need like dentist work, if you need like if you need something doing like a small operation, you're not going to be having a trained doctor or surgeon do that, and it will be carried out by somebody who is not trained and who is not an expert. Doesn't that worry you? Like, that's really concerning. The fact that, in order to reduce waiting lists, we'll just get people who aren't trained to do this job instead because there's not enough trained. Oh my God, like, this just keeps getting worse and worse. Jesus Christ. Some experts have questioned when the promised 2.4 billion will become available and whether future governments will continue to provide it after 2028, whilst others have expressed concerns that the planned productivity gains will not be backed by sufficient funding to improve infrastructure. Yeah, so that's the NHS Workforce Plan. Again, doesn't include pay, does not include anything around social care. As we now know, Rishi Sunak, was it Rishi Sunak or Boris Johnson, said that they would increase income tax last year to pay for social care, but that's now been dropped. So what is going to happen with social care? Probably nothing. We don't know. But like all of these things like pay and social care are so important, and it's just not being taken seriously, which I think is a real issue, because that problem is only going to get worse. It's like I said with the water, like if you leave something for long enough, you just allow it to get worse, and it's like a disease. It will just keep on spreading, and then it will cost you more and more to try and fix. And all of this stuff is just sticking plaster politics. Like, it's really not going to have it's not really going to make a massive difference. And it's just like, well, how can we solve the problem temporarily? And like how, and also like, I feel like this move really is just like, we're a year-ish away from the next general election. So to me, this really smacks of like, let's try and encourage, more people to like vote for us because we've got this, NHS plan. And this will, try and persuade people to, vote Tory, and it shows that we care about the NHS. Like, effing hell, no, it doesn't. Like, you've abandoned it and let it rot for 13 years, and now look at the state that it's in because of you. And now you're having to, say things like, oh, look at us, look at this idea, we've just come up with it, and oh yeah, new plans for NHS, hooray, aren't we amazing? No, like you haven't tackled anything that needs to be tackled. Like, how are you gonna, how are you going to retain these staff, these nurses? Like, what are you going to do to incentivize them to stay in their jobs instead of moving to Australia, where they're literally like, Australians like come over here to poach our staff because they know that they're going to get paid better. And it really, God, and we think we're bad at poaching people from other countries, from like Africa and Asia and India and all these places. Like, we poach them. Australia poaches our best people because they know they're going to get treated better. And that's that's the NHS today. It really is an indictment of the state of our health system. as a result of our government over the past 13 years. So yeah, I'd really like to know what your thoughts are, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think about the NHS and the Workforce Plan and etc. So that's the NHS Workforce Plan. So yeah, just going back to the comments. Peter Anderson has joined the chat. Hello, saying how many billions are they spending on the globalist war in Ukraine? And Labour supports it. What does the left say, which has been co-opted by global capital? Zero. Excuse me a moment. So, on to our final story of the afternoon. Thank you again for joining me on my channel today. So it's interesting. I read an article in The Guardian, because I'm such a liberal lefty. I read an article in The Guardian about this guy that had been expelled from the Labour Party. You might know his name. Neil Lawson, who I think this tweet sort of exploded a little bit over the weekend, just because everyone was just really like sort of pissed off and outraged at how much Labour has changed and how they could do something like this to such an innocuous tweet from like 2 years ago. And it really just goes to show how Labour under Keir Starmer has transformed and sort of just rebranded his entire party and just diluted it down into like such a really sort of right-wing, intolerant party from the top down, where like any sort of dissent is met with like massive amounts of discipline, unnecessary in my opinion. But I don't have words to describe what my thoughts are on the Labour Party as it is now, folks. I know that they're really the only feasible alternative party to vote for, you know, in the face of this scourge of Toryism. But I really don't know what Keir Starmer is doing. Like, he just seems he's turning the Labour Party into such like a dictatorial sort of right-wing body of really like sort of just putrid neoliberals, and it's just really sad. Like, it's really sad that he just has kicked out all these really principled left-wing, not even like left-wing, but like centre-left people. And it started off with Rebecca Long-Bailey back in 2020, and it's continued with many other people. Jeremy Corbyn is the obvious biggie, but he's now standing as an independent. But yeah, this scourge is just really insidious, and it's quite scary actually what he's doing, and the continuation of this neoliberal agenda. And I don't know if they think that will work, if, you know, because I don't have words. It's like, it's making me so frustrated that they just don't seem to have anything to offer anybody. There seems to be no point in them coming up with any policies, because the day after it's almost like, oh, we said we were going to do this, but now we're not. So, and yeah, I know that we said we were going to like do all this renationalisation, but we realise that's probably going to cost quite a lot of money, and that's sort of in direct conflict with our fiscal plan, fiscal responsibility. So we've decided we're not going to do that anymore. And oh, what's that? Oh, free school meals for kids. Oh yeah, like not going to do that. Sorry. Like, what the hell? Like, why? Who was telling you not to do these things? Like, they're really, really very harmless policies, a lot of them. Like, who's gonna get hurt, like, by free school meals? Little kids. Like, why are you coming for little kids? Like, oh, we can't afford, like, all the legacy that the Tories going to leave us will mean that we're going to make some hard decisions. Oh, hard decisions. Oh, we've heard that before. It's I just don't want to hear it. I've heard the same thing over and over, and it's just you sound exactly like Tories when you say that, like hard, difficult decisions. Oh, that basically translates into we're gonna fuck over poor people. That's what it means. We're gonna give poor people a really hard time, even though there's like nothing else left to cut. Like Tories did austerity, and we're just gonna sort of carry it on, and we might be like a little bit better, like just a tiny amount, but then we'll like just start taking things away again. But you know, at least you'll be glad because we're not Tories. You better be grateful because we're not those people. So just be grateful. Yeah, gosh, I'm going into a rant now. But yeah, so this article by Neil Lawson, he sort of explains why he got expelled after tweeting this really harmless tweet, and from 2 years ago. So let's take a look at this article. If you've not read it yet, I sort of softly recommend that you do if you want to. So here we go. Right, so here we go. After 44 years, Labour moves to expel me, and my MP and activist friends are asking who will be next. So this was published on last Friday. Last Friday, an email from the Labour Party, of which I've been a member for 44 years, broke my political heart. They wrote coldly to tell me that back in May 2021, I'd committed a crime. Retweeting a Lib Dem MP's call for some voters to back Green candidates in local elections, accompanied by my suggestion that such cross-party cooperation represented grown-up progressive politics. Why did I say that? Why on earth am I facing expulsion for it? And what might it mean for the future of our politics? I said it for two reasons. First, because the progressive majority in our country is thwarted by the electoral system. Votes on the right go almost exclusively to the Tories, but the progressive vote is always split between Labour, Lib Dems and Greens. Under first past the post, the Conservatives win on a minority of the vote again and again. Cooperation between progressives just makes sense. But the real reason I said it is because cooperation is what people do when they have broadly shared goals but bring different attributes and ideas to the table. In every aspect of our daily lives, we succeed when we work respectively with others. It's called pluralism, and it celebrates our differences in the surefire knowledge that any future worth having is one we negotiate with others rather than one imposed on us. The Labour Party was founded on the principle of pluralism. It was a federation of trade unions and socialist societies that cooperated for a common purpose. Its initial electoral breakthrough came in 1906 because the Liberal Party stood aside in 30 seats. The spine of Labour's remarkable 1945 manifesto came from the liberal minds of John Maynard Keynes and William Beveridge, and then, before 1997, Tony Blair and Paddy Ashdown forged a strong bond to get the Tories out and usher New Britain in. Today, Labour councillors work hand in hand with Greens and Lib Dems to defend communities from Tory cuts. In Wales, Labour runs the country successfully in alliance with Plaid Cymru, the Welsh nationalists. This realistic and hopeful politics is the heart and soul of Labour. It finds meaningful expression now in the overwhelming backing of members and unions for PR. so that all votes count equally and thus boost the Lib Dems and the Greens at the expense of the Tories. It suggests a world in which Labour does as well as possible, but knows that governing with others is better than losing alone. This is where I stand, on the shoulders of giants such as John Smith, Neil Kinnock, Robin Cook, Mo Mowlam, and today Ed Miliband and Andy Burnham. Interesting choice of people there. So why use an uncontentious tweet from over 2 years ago to move to expel me? The reason is that the party machine is no longer run in this long and rich spirit of pluralism. It has been captured by a clique who see only true believers or sworn enemies. They are behaving like playground bullies, using people's desperation to get rid of Tories and the limitations of the voting system to enforce discipline internally and externally. All this fast amounting to an abusive relationship. Sorry. Oh, just a moment. Sorry. PR is the route to a progressive century, but for the Labour machine, that would mean sacrificing its domineering power. Most of its behaviour now originates in this paranoid top-down way of political thinking. It doesn't seem to matter to the cliques at the top that even mildly radical policies are being junked or watered down, from rent controls to the 28 billion a year green transition, or that Labour's leader chooses the Rupert Murdoch path to power over the progressive majority route. They bat away suggestions that even if Labour rule will be better than Conservatives, it will not be good enough to deal with a perma-crisis world, and its shaky hold on power could dangerously pave the way to authoritarian populism. More than anything, the machine doesn't care if there's an absence of hope in its project. It doesn't matter what you think or feel, so long as you obediently support it. I feel a deep sadness that I've tried to do my bit to make Labour a more hopeful, ambitious, generous and compassionate place, and everything has come to this end. I feel the hurt of seeing my MP and activist friends cowed by the fear that they may be next, that they must walk some arbitrary line that keeps them constantly watching their backs. I feel shocked that the factionalism I warned against at the start of the year in these pages has taken its revenge and pretty much proved the point. It's a petty tyranny. It will be tragic if this is the culture Labour takes into government, because it will fail, and it's not party bureaucrats who will pay the price but the nation. Politics can be beautiful or brutal. It can be a place of dreams and hope, collective endeavour, generosity and love. Or it can deny all these things. In his allegorical play The Crucible, about the McCarthy witch hunts in the US, Arthur Miller writes, "You know in all your black hearts that this be fraud, you are pulling heaven down. Labour's persecutors and witchfinders aren't the best of the party, just the people who currently happen to be at the top. They are hard but brittle. Inevitably, like all bullies, they have to be generously but firmly stood up to until they understand their own insecurities and can start to heal. To my accusers, I therefore send my love. You can fight against almost anything, but the zeitgeist, the inevitable spirit that shapes our lives. Today, in the face of enormous challenges and opportunities, all we have is our interconnectedness and our shared humanity. Pluralism, that ugly but powerful word, is the force that will shape anything that is progressive, because it is right, it is good, because it works, and people almost everywhere know it. This very human truth is the opposite of the message I was sent in that cold and clinical email. Somewhere in their hearts, I suspect the people who wrote it know that as well. Yeah, so that's that article. So yeah, thanks for your comments so far. That was an interesting one. NA/NA has commented saying, "Hey Rodog, who do you think you'll vote for in the future?" That is an interesting question. Where I live in my constituency, I'm pretty much forced to probably vote Lib Dem, although in the 2019 election it wasn't clear, even though Labour happened to be the second party under the Conservatives that had a absolutely humongous majority. I'm hoping that this time around, at the very least, my Tory MP will, I'm cynically saying that I think that he probably won't lose his seat just because it is such a Tory stronghold. But I really hope that his majority is significantly reduced and that the Lib Dems get a bit more of a foothold, like they have done in my neighbouring constituency, Cheltenham, where Alex Chalk is the MP. But not by that much. I think Cheltenham is a marginal, so it's a bit better over there. But where I live, it's massively Tory. So I think I will just have to vote tactically. I sometimes will vote Green in council elections if I think that they're going to do the better job, because sometimes Green councillors do get voted in, which is good. But yeah, most of the time I end up just doing like what's the best vote to get the Tories out, and that's a sad situation to be in. But because of our electoral system, that's who we have to vote for until we get PR, which probably won't happen now if Labour get in, because they're going to probably U-turn on it inevitably. I mean, to be fair to them, they've not gone back on abolishing the Lords yet. But I'm just waiting for that to happen at some point. It will happen. They'll go back on it and find a reason to not do it. So I just have like zero faith in what they're going to do. Like I really, like my only two like beacons of hope in the Labour Party are people like Zara Sultana and Nadia Whittome, who are still there fighting the good fight. And like hopefully long may they continue. But yeah, it's not looking good really, is it? So Cameron, I'll read your comment as well. The British left has been thoroughly decapitated by Keir Starmer and Peter Mandelson. There was no fight back among the left MPs or members. If Corbyn was this ruthless, can you imagine? Yeah. I mean, if Corbyn had done a purge for all the right-wingers in his party, can you imagine what the tabloids would say? God, I mean, if he already isn't painted as the devil incarnate, then he certainly will be. Oh, just a sec, I think Chamchi's gonna come in. Just a second. Hello.
Hey, Ron. How's it going?
Good, yeah. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, good, yeah. So we're just discussing at the moment, well, this was the last topic really, but we were discussing the Labour Party and what we think of Keir Starmer and the chances at the next general election.
Oh, that's better. That's probably better. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I noticed on the last video I was on that my audio was a bit shocking. So turns out it was using the, yeah, anyway, doesn't matter. Chance at the next election. I think what we noticed from the last local elections, we knew that the Tory party were going to lose about 1,200 seats, right? And they lost about 1,200 seats. But what we noticed was they didn't necessarily all go to Labour, the ones that they lost. There was a bigger split between the other three parties, with being Lib Dems and Greens. I mean, Greens did really well. They basically doubled their number of seats, council seats. So I thought that was really interesting. Yeah, I'm hoping for a hung parliament.
I'm starting to think that way as well, actually. I just think, I mean, it's all very well, like, I remember, like, polls from, like, not long ago gave Labour a really big majority, and it's since sort of started to climb down a little bit. I think just because of how all of the U-turns and stuff, and how, I mean, I don't know if it's, like, pay attention to, like, internal party politics of the Labour Party, really. But
it seems to be a weekly basis, doesn't it? It's like we're going to release one policy one week, and then the next week they're going to roll back on it. Right?
Yeah, I've lost
Um,
all the stuff that they're now not doing.
well, I don't think any of the 10 pledges still stand.
No. Well, they're not doing renationalisation. They're not doing free school meals. They're not doing the green industrial plan or whatever it was. Or they significantly watered it down.
Yeah.
They're not going to spend as much money because I think they like costed it, but then they came back and said, "Oh no, it costs too much money," and the Tories have now got a bunch of debt and we can't do it now.
Such this whole 28 billion in like the Great British Energy and stuff like that. They launched this policy, right? They're going to have Great British Energy's investment into green energy policies, which is going to be based in Scotland, which is basically buying Scottish votes. But hey ho, let's push that aside. And they're like, oh, you know how much is this going to cost? And like, yeah, it's going to cost about 28 billion, right? And then Keir Starmer, no, sorry, not Keir Starmer, Rishi Sunak stands up and says, oh, this is inflationary. Rah, 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 rah. Well, no, actually, it's completely opposite. It's de-inflationary because half of inflation is powered by a number of things, but one of them is energy prices, right? And this should bring energy prices down, right? Because it's renewable energy. Using fossil fuels is inflationary, which is what Sunak wants to do. And it's just like, why are you not explaining this to people?
Yeah,
it is really annoying.
Yeah, well, because like all the fossil fuel energy prices that are factored into the global energy market, which is why inflation's going up, because we basically all share in the in buying it, basically, because it's all from other countries.
Yeah.
And we're all
we import 50% of our gas.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And yeah, so you're right. So if you then say, well, actually, we're gonna build all these renewable like energy plants like wind, solar, tidal. If we invest all of that into this country, then we won't be paying for all this extra, fossil fuel market stuff because we're not buying it.
Absolutely.
And they don't. Yeah, and they don't say like, oh, but
why aren't the Labour Party saying it? You know,
yeah.
And PMQs, I'm like, you're investing in what do you call it? Infrastructure, and then becomes an asset, right? So it earns through money, right?
And it may cost you in the short term and to build it, but in the long term, it will be a benefit. And I don't know why.
And it pays for itself.
Yeah,
it pays for itself.
It's like
right?
So many other things, like the NHS that I was just talking about earlier, like. And also, like, I also talked about water, and it's all like of the same thing. Where if like the Tories have just like left things to rot, and I'm just like, if you just leave things and don't invest in them for years and years and years, the amount of like repair and extra investment that you'll need to do is more expensive.
Well, I mean, you know as well as I do that the water is slightly different from the NHS, right? Yeah. So, I mean, with regards to the water, I mean, we know where that money's gone, don't we? It's gone to shareholders. Again, this is another inflationary thing, right?
Yeah. They've
gone up. Water rates have gone up, what, 40% since privatisation in the 1980s, like late 1980s. It's a monopoly. It's a pure monopoly.
Yeah, I talked about this. Yeah.
Oh, right, sorry. So, and the original idea is that there would be higher investment into the water companies, but of course, no. It's been this is the essence of disaster capitalism, right? You get hold of an asset and then you asset strip it, right? Yeah. And you starve it of investment and give it to the shareholders. Yeah. And then when Keir Starmer or whoever it is from the shadow cabinet is questioned about it, we need to be pragmatic about nationalisation. There's loads of shit being dumped in the fucking seas. Being pragmatic. No, we can't be ideological about this. We need to be pragmatic.
Yeah,
Fuck off. Be
it's
pragmatic.
so ludicrous. Like it just
Mm,
makes so much sense to like
it does.
renationalize these things. So I was saying earlier, it's like all there's about 11 water companies in the whole of England and Wales,
Right.
um, and they're all monopolies. Like it's
Hmm.
not as if like as a customer we can just be like, oh, I think my water company's not giving me the good deal that I want, so I'm going to switch companies and go over to like Anglian water instead. Like
Yeah,
can't
sure.
do that because it's all regional, and like the
Hmm.
water you're given is the water you're getting, and it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like and we've got no choice in it. Like we just have
Hmm.
to like put up and shut up. And like the
Mm.
moment where, well, it's been going on for years, but like when these water companies just decide to like dump all this crap into rivers and seas, and
Hmm.
then we put up a fuss about it and go, oh my god, like you can't be doing this. This is awful, and
Mm.
nothing happens. It's like, oh well, we can do something about it. Yeah, we've like given them a fine of like £1 million, and yeah,
Mm. Mm, 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 mm.
so
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? I mean, like this whole new. Um, I can't find you on YouTube, by the way.
on YouTube,
Yeah, are you streaming to YouTube right now?
yes. Oh, are you not subscribed to me?
I would have thought so.
It's
It's good.
it's
Yeah, go on.
Rodog Speaks now.
Oh, okay. Okay, that could be
Yeah,
why.
yeah,
I can turn it off. Okay, cool. Rock and roll.
yeah,
I now can see what's going on.
yeah. I don't have my channel page open currently. I'm only seeing what the comments are on here. So
So yeah, I mean, Keir Starmer is getting gift after gift after gift after gift. Like, not only what with the Boris Johnson defenestration,
yeah,
the ruling on the is it select committee?
privileges.
No,
I think.
privileges committee. There we go. On the privilege committee, Liz Truss.
Hmm.
There you go. There's a gift. And the thing that I think is one of the most interesting things is the complete implosion of the SNP. So I think that's going to be interesting because before, I mean, this is why Scotland went nationalist anyway. Is before, so like before 2010, Labour could essentially um, they could rely on 50 seats from Scotland,
Hmm.
right? And then what was it? 20. It wasn't 2010, but it was
2015.
2015. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was 2015 that they all went SNP, right? And they were just like, look, you've done nothing for us, so we're going to SNP, which is
Mm.
fair enough. So it's interesting that Keir Starmer wants to base this Great British Energy in Scotland. Um, whether it will work or not, I don't know. What do you think?
Um, I think yeah, like I think I agree. Like he's been given so many open goals,
Mm,
and I'm struggling to find reasons as to why he's not capitalizing on all these open goals, and the fact that
mm,
I think that like one of the only reasons why Labour are leading in the polls at the moment is just that the Tories are just so goddamn awful that we just want to have an alternative. But the thing is,
mm,
Labour aren't really giving any alternative, like apart from we're not them, so vote for us, which is a really rubbish way of promoting yourself. Um, and I think, and this is just a guess, but I think it's that Keir Starmer doesn't want to give the Tories any reason at all to give them and the right wing media a chance to like come for them, like
mm,
anything. Like I'll just say nothing, and I'll also like support you in some things. so that I know that you're not going to come and attack me or criticize me over anything that I'm saying, any of my policies. Like, you're not going to, in the next election campaign, come and have a pop, because they inevitably will. I
yeah. I
think
mean,
that's what they're banking on.
there is something to say to, keeping your powder dry until the run up to the election. The election is going to be in a year's time.
Yeah.
Whatever he calls it. The latest is
January
2025, right? Oh, it was January, February, something like that.
Yeah.
It won't be then. It will probably be summer of. I want it should be bloody tomorrow. The state of this government, honestly. But yeah, it's probably going to be in about a year's time. There is something to be said about keeping his powder dry, especially this week with the new NHS proposal, which I think is complete fucking dog shit, to be honest.
It doesn't go nearly far enough at all.
It's not underlying the underlying issues of retention, right? You can train as many nurses as you like. Fine, train them up, and then they fuck off to Australia.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was one of my previous topics where I was saying there are two massive elephants in the room with that. Pay, which is a really obvious one, where doctors and nurses have been screaming from the rooftops at you saying, give us more pay, which they're not doing. And also social care. Nobody wants to go near it with a barge pole. It's like, oh, it costs so much money. Oh, do something about it. It needs to be done.
And what did Labour say? What did West Streeton say? This is a good policy, but they've stolen it from us. I was like, well, no, it's a shit policy, actually. Well, no, in theory, it's a good policy, but yeah, it doesn't address those two elephants, as you say.
Yeah. Oh, it's so ludicrous. It's just, again, it's, I was watching, I don't know if you watch Politics Joe at all, but
I do.
They do little podcast videos. Where
I like them. Yeah, they're really funny.
And
Hate Nonsense, love podcasts.
Yeah. They were talking about Keir Starmer always accusing the Conservatives of sticking plaster policies.
Yeah.
When he's literally the king of sticking plaster policies.
Absolutely.
Oh, no, we're not doing this now, but we're going to really, really water this down and not actually do anything radical to reform anything, even though it's what's needed. But hypocrite, just war.
Absolutely. Cameron asks, what do you think should be done to combat inflation?
That's a complex question with a complex answer.
Well, you know Cameron with these big questions. He's always in with the big questions.
Yeah.
I've got loads of ideas, but neither party would do them.
No. I mean, I do think that, because they do make the argument when they talk about inflation that, oh, well, if we give the public sector a pay rise, then it would also make inflation less.
That's bollocks.
No, I don't think that it will, because public sector isn't it's not part of the private business sector, and that's what really makes inflation go up. Whereas if you're paying out of government funds from taxpayer money, that won't really affect inflation, really.
Right.
So I think that's the reason for giving the public sector a pay rise, because I think that's just a myth of, they use that quite a lot, as a stick to beat the public sector with, saying this is the reason why we can't give you a pay rise, because it will cause inflation to skyrocket.
Yeah, the wage price spiral, they call it. Yeah, it's complete nonsense.
Yeah.
I can see it, and if you were to do it now, it would be inflationary. But the fact that wages have been stagnating for the past 13 years anyway, yet we've still had inflation, basically it's nonsense. So the first thing I do is introduce rent caps. Okay. The second thing I would do is I would reduce interest payments, because the interest that's being brought in to combat inflation is not working. We've seen it. It's there's been what 12, 24 something interest rate increases in the past 6 months, and they've not increased. They've not decreased. Sorry, inflation. So it's not working. It's not working. So we need to freeze interest at least. We need to if we look at we need to look at the most profiteering companies from this. So we're looking at power companies. We're looking at places like Tesco's and Aldi and places like that are really getting scraping in a lot of money. And what they need to do is they need to increase the wages of their employees, and they also need to bring in price caps as well. But this is controlling in the market, right? And both parties seem to be ideologically against this. So yeah, rent caps and price caps, okay, and then a windfall taxes on the power companies again, but without these fucking get out clauses, because they are virtually nothing. Oh yeah, you can escape this windfall tax if you invest in fossil fuels, or if you invest in, and it just didn't work. It was just a flat thing.
It's interesting that like when the Bank of England and like the governor of the Bank of England, when they raise interest rates is a way of trying to control inflation. Like, oh, the reason we're doing this is that it sort of stops people from it stops people from buying lots of things.
That's the idea, but the problem is because everybody's on the bread line anyway. Exactly. Everybody's buying the bare minimum.
People still need to buy bread, and they're not going to stop buying bread just because it now costs £5.
Right. This is the thing, isn't it? Karen says food inflation is higher than the official rate of inflation. Yes, food inflation is about 18%, 19%, something like that. So we need price caps. Right, Tesco's, Aldi, all of the supermarkets are getting massive profits. Last quarter, it's crazy. So they need to. They need to.
Wouldn't it be great if these companies, like, without any, prodding, just admitted, like, actually, guys, we don't actually need this extra money. Like, it's nice, but like, we actually don't need to do it. So, we'd be happy to have it capped. So, like, say, for example, like, let's cap a pint of milk at like 95 pence.
Fuck, a pint of milk is 95 pence?
Ish. At the moment, it's just under £1.
For 1 pint of milk?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ. Do you know how much it was when I left?
50p.
35 pence. That was in 2010. Jesus fucking Christ.
I think that's right. Gosh, I have to go and check that now.
Oh my God. That is insane. That is insane. But yeah, food inflation. So what was it Richie Sunak said last week about wages and inflation? He said you've got to do what? You've got to. No, it wasn't brace yourself. What was it? You got to.
Yeah, Sainsbury's British semi-skim milk, 1 pint, 90p.
My God.
Yeah. I was like, you shocked me then. It's like, it definitely is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I mean, you don't like what you can do, right? What you could do is like just price cap what they call essentials, right? Or even what you could do is you could remove VAT from essentials.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's something they could do tomorrow. Remove VAT on things like rice, bread, milk, whatever else, cornflakes. I don't know. They'd have to have.
Categorize like what's an essential and what isn't.
Well, then you have a focus group or whatever. They love focus groups, don't they? Government by focus groups. Yeah, I mean, you get a bunch of experts, nutritionists, and things like that, and say, okay, what's needed in diet? You know, salt, sugar, coffee, tea, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
Actually, coffee can fuck off. Just tea.
yeah,
but you know, these things. There are things you can do, but they're ideologically against them. Okay, and then of course, so that's one side, profiteering. Power, they were profiteering as well. So again, we need to do this gains tax. And then the third thing is, which I know neither party will do, is join the single market, or at least have a customs union. Right? They need a customs union because the third branch of inflation is, of course, Brexit.
yeah. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. But that wasn't. I didn't say what was possible. I just said what needs to happen.
Yeah,
And that was the question.
yeah. There's plenty of common sense solutions that they could do tomorrow, but because they're ideologically driven and they think, oh my God, it's going to scare all these investors away and they won't give us any money and they'll go off to like all these other countries and invest in China instead. Like, hey, no, they won't. Like, if you do another windfall tax on like BP or something,
Yeah.
they're not going to turn around and go, oh, well, that's it, we're leaving. No, because they know that there's a market in this country that's going to continue, and it's like a ready stream of custom. They're not going to turn tail and just quit it. Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, with regards to all of that, yeah, it's all nonsense. I mean, it's a tale of as old as time, you know. When we stopped doing slavery, it's like, no, you can't stop us trading in slaves. The market will collapse. Everything will be turmoil. No, it didn't.
No.
When we put age restrictions and started and stopped child labour, everybody was like, "No, you can't do that. The markets will fail.
Yeah.
It'll be anarchy. You can't do that.
Stop advertising cigarettes.
No, the tobacco market will fall. You can't do that."
Yeah, could possibly, but
yeah, it's a tale of oldest time. So no bollocks.
Yeah. But honestly, I just think like we need like I tweeted the other day like in response to an article that I just read out. This guy got expelled from the Labour Party for tweeting something really harmless about working with other parties, and that got him kicked out of the party.
Have you been purged yet? Because you're left wing. It's a left wing purge.
I'm not a member of the Labour Party.
Oh, right. Okay.
But I said we need like radical ideas, and with people who are willing to have actionable ideas, and it's just not happening. And by the looks of it, Keir Starmer like wants to push the Labour Party back to where it was in like '97. So it's like in partnership with like the Murdoch press, and it's just not what we need. Like we really need like this country and all of its like what's left of it is on its knees and like needs massive. It needs people to be brave and to be bold and say, yes, I understand it's going to cost this much. Be willing to confront the fact that it's going to cost that much and just do it. Like, I don't care because it's essential at this point, because otherwise we're going to lose. Like I was talking about all the NHS staff that are wanting to move to Australia because the conditions and pay are better, and like talk about retention. Like the opposite is happening because we're not willing to invest in the health system.
Absolutely.
And it's just, I just find it so tragic that we've got politicians in this country on both sides of the aisle that are just so unwilling to stand up and be counted and say, actually, no, this is a load of bollocks that's happening here, and we need to do this instead.
And Wes Streeting has such a hard on for the private sector. It's unreal.
Yeah.
They're funneling so much money through him. It's crazy. Um, Now for a stopgap, I'm kind of because we you know this plan that the government has. It's a 15-year plan, right? Which is it for over the next 15 years. It's all well and good, but they need help now. What can we do now?
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of again another solution, right? We've got how many hundreds of thousands of refugees waiting to be processed, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, let's get processing them. Are you a nurse? Are you a doctor? Are you able? Right? Right? And just like, okay, we got these sectors. And if they don't tick any of the boxes, okay, let's get you picking fruit or doing whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And start plugging these holes in the labor market that we have, right? And because they came here to work, they came here to contribute,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you got like 3 people sitting there in the civil service trying to process them, and it's
We're
just like
paying
it's
more. We're paying more to
house them
homes
in
and hotels,
hotels. Yeah, yeah,
and
millions and millions of pounds a
this
week.
and we're also paying for this uh, Rwanda court case. How much does that cost?
Oh,
Millions.
hundreds of thousands, hundreds
Yeah.
of thousands.
So quite
Um,
pointless. Why? Why?
so yeah, just knock it on the head. Say, okay, get rid of the Rwanda policy and just say, look, we need labour, we need nurses, we need doctors, we need
Yeah.
midwives, we need health social care workers. We need all of these things. And you're telling me out of 100,000 or 200,000 refugees we've got stuck in hotels doing fuck all, that they couldn't fill some of these holes,
Yeah.
skilled or not. They're
I don't know.
hospital porters, dinner ladies,
Yeah.
fucking all sorts.
I honestly don't know what the Home Office are doing. Like they just sat there with junior members quaking in their boots because they're being bullied by senior staff. Probably.
Yeah.
I hate my
Yeah.
job and I don't want to I'm being prevented from doing my job and I honestly don't know, but it's just
It has parallels of like the NEC with the anti-Semitism thing when Nichols was in there. They're literally sitting on their hands and then waiting for the crisis to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And then Braverman, Cruella Braverman can come in and say, "Oh no, yeah, well, these lefty lawyers didn't let me do the Africa thing, so Rwanda, yeah."
but
So
I think it's getting to a point where I'm getting really skeptical about what their actual intentions are. So like Suella Braverman always just seems so gleeful about the fact that
it's sickening, honestly.
yeah,
It twists my
it's just
stomach.
I dream about deporting all these immigrants. This is my
She is a horrid person. Could you imagine though? Could you imagine if someone from the Gaminati was saying that?
Hmm?
Could you imagine if someone, because it was on the Telegraph, wasn't it? It was during the Tory conference, and it was on the Tory graph thing, wasn't it? And she was just, oh, it's my dream to see on the front page of the Telegraph, see a plane taking off to Rwanda. Could you imagine if it was a member of the Gaminati doing that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? He'll be labelled exactly what it is. This is racist, right?
Yeah, it is. It's weird. It's
It is weirdly authoritarian as well.
Yeah, but I just think that I don't know if it's that the reason why this issue keeps on sort of going on and on is because they just want to perpetuate the migrant crisis so that it rattles their base and they've still got their base sort of riled up. If you know what I mean. It's like, well, we can keep our base, we can keep on throwing red meat to the base saying, look, all these immigrants and all these boats, we're going to stop the boats. That's all they can say now. It's like they've got nothing else. Stop the boats. And that's all Rishi Sunak can say. Like, if he's asked a question that's completely not about what's happening on the channel, well,
exactly right.
On my priorities, which are stop the boats. And it's like, can you say something else? Like, are you capable of like other vocabulary?
What I'm doing is delivering from the British people, and they've asked me to stop the boats. Well, fuck you, man. You don't have a mandate.
Stop gaslighting. And it's like, well, this is what the British people want, and they are being.
I've been asked to deliver this for the people. Well, like, no, you haven't.
No, you haven't. Also, it was in your manifesto in 2019 to do this. No. And also, it's been judged to be unlawful by judges, and yet it's still the will of the people.
I don't know. It's a score draw at the moment, wasn't it? Because they went to court the first time and won, and then they went to court the second time, which is the next level, and they've now lost.
Yeah.
So it's 1-1. So they're gonna take it to it's a penalty shootout at the High Court.
There should only be so many times that you can appeal at the Supreme Court, I think, because you can't just go on appealing until you win. That's just a bit ridiculous.
It is. It is. It's not a bit ridiculous. It's crazy ridiculous.
The fact that they go on, it's just so dangerous, though. The way they go on saying like it's not like democratic and it undermines. Like, you're undermining democratic processes by saying how unfair it is and how it goes against the will of the people, when it's literally democracy in action, where you have judges like telling the government that they can't do something because it's not lawful, because it's been deemed to be unlawful. Well, the will of the people said that they wanted the Rwandan plan, and we wanted these planes. Oh no! And like that's dangerous language to be like undermining your own judicial system.
Well, to be honest, I think this I think this is morally. Obviously, we don't have a written constitution, so I don't have anything to say. Hey, look, this, right? But I think that the way that Rishi Sunak was appointed was basically undemocratic. And I think he should have asked the people as soon as he got in. He should have called a general election. He has zero mandate. That fucking lettuce had more mandate than he does. Right?
Yeah.
So he should have called a general election. We need a written constitution because they have run roughshod over this idea of what they call it, the good guy constitution that we seem to have.
Yeah,
like this whole gentleman's agreement that he must be a good guy. He went to the same schools that we did. He was educated at the same schools that we were. So he must be a good guy, which has turned out since 2019 turned out to be complete nonsense. The unlawful proroguing of government, the fact that the parliamentary ethics advisor has been resigned twice, and now do they have one now?
I don't know, actually. That's a good question.
After Gate, did they appoint another person
for being bullied, and then the accused bully didn't get sacked either?
The fact, I mean, these. If you the fact that the committee that Johnson was up wasn't a select committee. What was it?
Privileges committee.
Privileges committee. Right. Okay.
Privileges. I think it's like the disciplinary part of Parliament where you actually do get to account a bit more.
The fact that there were attacks and attacks and attacks by Nadine Dorries, by Jacob Tree-Frogs, this is a kangaroo court, blah 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 blah. Like these things should never have been allowed to go ahead, right? On their own channels, like on their own programs, on GBBs. Like this is severe attacks on our democratic processes.
Yeah.
Right? They should like straight up for selection. Off you go. You're losing your seat.
Yeah.
Off you go.
It's so childish though, like the childishness and like puerile behaviour of these sitting members of parliament. Like, don't know if Nadine Dorries is still sitting or not. That's yet to be seen, whether she decides to or not. But it's just so, I've never seen, like, these are grown adults, and like the likes of like Nadine Dorries, honestly, every time I like words come out of her mouth, it's like, I'm sorry, are you actually a human being, or is someone just programmed you? And I'm just like you can't. It's like, and the way that she tweets as well. It's like, well, I'm waiting. I want answers from the committee as to why I wasn't given a peerage, and I won't give up my seat until I get the answers that I'm looking for. It's like, but why? Why wasn't I? Why I deserve my honours? Like
my gong.
Yeah.
Oh, the fact that
hear yourself. Can you hear yourself? Like, people are reading this. It's like, I want an investigation as to why I was told that I was going to be receiving a peerage, and now it seems like I'm not, because Boris Johnson told me I was going to, and now I'm not on the list anymore. But I want to know why, and I won't be moving on until I receive written, explanations as to why I haven't been given. And I'm just like, oh my god, like, are you a child? Are you a child? Are you like a little 5-year-old toddler? I want my pudding. It's like, for God's sake.
It's just like Zach Goldsmith loses his seat, gets put in the Lords, then put in a cabinet. Right? I mean, how anti-democratic is that? For fuck's sake!
I just can't. I just think Nadine Dorries is like, I know she's one of the wrong ones, but my goodness, like, she's just amazing.
No, I want her. Do you know what? I want her, right, to get re-elected, right, and I want her to be on the front bench, either in the shadow, because obviously they're going to lose.
She was on the front bench for a little bit. She was the culture secretary.
Yes, exactly, and she did that big fuck up with Channel 4.
Yeah, right. They said that like it was in like a publicly owned, and it wasn't.
It's a commercial broadcaster. Oh my god, know your brief, for fuck's sake! You've got one job. You've got one job. But no, I want her to be in the shadow front bench. Whatever happens to the Tories after, because she's just got so much comedy value. Like, honestly, every time she is funny. I
think she should just carry on writing her shite novels and go on a talk TV show and just carry on embarrassing herself, love, because that's all you're good for.
Yeah.
I have to like shelve her books. That's my job, because I see her books in the library.
Oh, you're still at the library? Oh, how's that going?
Good, yeah, it's all right. But yeah, I do I observe her trashy romance period novels.
Oh, is it like Mills and Boon or Danielle Steele or something?
Yeah, it's a bit like that. Yeah, it's like historical soft porn. Yeah.
We've got a right winger in the chat, Peter Anderson. Peter Anderson, do you have a question?
Classic lefty fluffy clouds. Well, he's not disagreed with anything that we said, apparently, so that's a good thing.
There we go.
Yeah.
I think if I was on the right, small C and large C Conservative, I'd be really pissed off at what they've done to the party, what Boris Johnson has done to the party. I'd be really angry. Yeah. Apart from there are a few nutcases that that are on the Farage right that think it's
they all seem to go on Question Time, so, and it's just I don't really watch Question Time anymore. I just stay for the clips that are on Twitter, and most of the time it's like, well, we've invited a majority Conservative voting audience into the crowd
Well,
today.
it's supposed to reflect the electorate, right?
Yeah, and it never
So
does.
no,
Yeah,
even when Corbyn was in his pomp after
yeah,
2017, we still got like Tory. We
yeah,
still like
yeah.
60%
Well, I
Tory.
remember like when they came to my town and like I applied to be on the show, and
Hmm.
I basically should have said I'm a raging right winger because then they would have said yes. But because I said that I voted Labour um, and I'm generally on the left and I like green environmental policies that protect the planet.
Mm.
Absolutely not, not the likes of you.
Well, who can you remember who would have been on the panel?
I
Who was
think
on the
local
panel?
MP Alex Chalk was on it, but I can't.
Hmm.
Who else? I don't know. Jess Phillips. I don't know. I forgot. Yeah, that was like last year, I think.
Oh, really?
But like, oh, the caliber of people on Question Time now, like the people in the audience. There was one lady last week. I can't remember whether in Clacton or somewhere else, but she said they were talking about Brexit and the reason why she voted to leave was because she was seeing lots of people in like France and Germany
Hmm.
who were not not wearing like hard hats and like safety gear on construction sites.
Oh
And
shit! Yeah, yeah. I saw this clip.
and then she said that in the UK, like we're sort of like forced to wear this safety gear, and I thought that it was unfair that like people in our country are they sort of have to wear them, but like people in France and Germany don't have to. And it's like, but what are you trying to say? Like, are you trying to say that you don't want safety
Down with
regulations?
those health and safety rules.
Yeah. Or like the EU introducing like safety regulations, but at the same time, it meant that people didn't have to wear safety gear, and
Mm,
that's why I voted for Brexit. They live amongst us.
they do live amongst us. Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. Was that the Brexit
I
QT
think it
last
must
week?
have been. Yeah, and then there's another guy. He was like, "I've seen migrants get off the boat and head straight to the
Straight to the
benefits office.
Brexit office. Yeah, and it's just like,
Like,
what's the
do you
benefits office?
Do you
Like,
stalk them? Like, do
uh,
you know where they get off? Are you down at the coast with binoculars?
oh
You
dear.
know, and like I've seen them. I've seen them walk from the boats straight to the job centre, and like people are like, you can't apply for benefits if you don't have like a fixed address and you're not a British citizen,
They don't know how difficult it is, right?
and you don't.
Even just
If
to
you've
get
not
on
been down to
JSA,
asylum,
it's
you can't go on benefits, and that's
yeah.
a really simple. If you googled it, you would know. Like, no, I've seen these. I've seen it. I've seen it myself. Oh my god! And it's like it's really obvious that like you obviously haven't you
Well,
haven't
he's never
you,
obviously have to claim
no,
benefits, right?
and like
Like,
you've just read this from the Tory graph or the Mail.
hmm,
Um, but
Daily Hail.
Cameron is here.
Oh, cool. I'll let Cameron. I'm just gonna go get a drink. I'll be right back.
Cool. Hi, Cameron.
Hello there.
Hello. Welcome to a stream.
Ah, thank you.
I've not done one in a while, I know, but
Yeah.
it's a special treat.
I thought, I thought I'd join and give my thoughts what's going on.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Firstly, this country's in an absolute mess, and I'm amazed how it's run.
Mm.
I think anyone can do a better job than these in power. It's almost to the extent where I think actually what's going on is not incompetence, but it's actually malicious intent.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of both.
Mm. I'll agree with both of you on that. I think the country was doomed to failure since Margaret Thatcher. We've seen now that this neoliberalism, Chicago School of Economics, Reaganomics, whatever you want to call it, has, the chickens have come home to roost in that. And we've seen we've got the most expensive train fares in Europe. The water is, as we said earlier, pumping shit into everything. Our power companies are screwing everybody and profiteering from the war in Ukraine. These things, the selling off of the social housing, which means that you can't get on the housing ladder. I mean, all of these things that are brought in.
All of it stems
Thatcher.
from Thatcher, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Unfortunately, she's got such a lot to answer for. Like, she did the whole right to buy scheme where we got rid of all the social housing, like you said, like sold off utilities, sold off rail, gas, electric, all the stuff that like we used to really still do rely on, but like it just made sense that it was like all British national state owned.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think, especially with things like water, like I said right at the start of the stream, like why would you privatize something as basic and as important to like human life, like water, especially when like there's only like a handful of companies that own it. And there's no choice for you to go anywhere else for your water supply, and they're just raking it in. Like, I know, like I talked about Thames Water at the beginning, who are currently in like 14 billion amount of debt at the moment, but it's not worked. Like, it's failed. Like, this is an example of where capitalism has failed. And
it's neoliberalism specifically that's failed.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just I don't think it's just what we had in the public sector as the issue here. Because let's think a minute. You think of the major corporations use to buy basic things like food, even buying your car. How many of them are owned by British businessmen?
Not many.
And how much profit stays in the United Kingdom?
Not much.
I think this.
Sorry.
Yeah, I would say, and what you consider British brand, first thing to come to mind is Mini Cooper, sold off. Tesco
MG.
sold off to foreign investors. It's all been sold off, so we don't have any brand.
Actually, a portion of Tesco's is owned by a Korean company, which is good for me because I get to buy Tesco's food in Korea. I get.
Well, the water companies are owned by foreign. Some it's owned by like a Chinese company, and others like a Canadian company.
They're like hedge funds and things like that, which is why they're extracting so much capital.
That's why our train tickets are so expensive, because they're all being subsidised in other countries so that their tickets are cheaper.
Yeah.
We're paying for other countries to get the train ticket.
I thought a very good point about the railways. Now, the reason why they're so inefficient. Do you know where the government gives them various companies like a section of a rail network, so that we have for example, Northern Rail, which is government have taken control of that, and it's still as incompetent as ever. But Northern Rail doesn't own any of the trains. The trains are owned by another company. And then the other company hires another company to maintain the trains. And it goes on and on. If I actually ask everyone on here who maintains the railways? Is it Network Rail?
It is Network Rail. Yeah, it's
Network
us, and we
Rail,
pay.
isn't it?
No. They pay other companies to do it.
Oh, really?
There's private companies called,
Is
like,
it
for example,
outsourced?
yeah, there's a
Do
company
they?
called Volker Rail that's based in Doncaster, for example,
It's not.
who helps maintain the railways. So that's
Okay,
outsourced.
I thought it was done by Network Rail, which is a national
Network.
company.
No, they just own the railways. They're actually outsourced it as well.
Yeah, that's
It's
what I
bigger than
Oh.
it's bigger than you think. It's incredibly inefficient.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's bizarre though, because the actual rail train tracks are owned by Network Rail, but then the
That's
train
right. Yeah.
companies themselves, like
The rolling
are
stock,
owned
as they call it, the actual trains themselves are owned by Virgin, Great Western Rail, or whoever it is.
No, they lease stock and rent it. They don't
Leased,
actually
yes,
own it.
leased. Sorry,
They don't own
yes,
it.
you're right, absolutely.
So you're paying for them to lease it to another company, where you pay for your train ticket.
The most expensive train tickets in Europe,
Yeah,
probably the world.
but it just means that countries like France and Germany can subsidise their train tickets because they own those train companies in this country. It really is a sham. It is such a sham. Like, it shouldn't be allowed, but we have like prostituted ourselves, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want me to tell you something that's gonna blow your socks off? I travelled first class from. I'm going to use this in English terms because obviously it wasn't in England; it was in South Korea, right? I travelled first class, okay, high speed rail, okay, the equivalent of London. No, let's say Brighton to Liverpool. Guess how much it cost me? First class.
Tenner.
Serious question. Serious question. It's more than a tenner.
£80.
You're close, actually. $70, which is about £50. Whichever way you cut it is still. Well, I didn't pay it; like company paid it.
Yeah.
But yeah, $70 was the ticket. That was returned, by the way. Yeah, in first class. That's crazy, right? Super cheap, and it was on the day, like 30 minutes before I was traveling. So I didn't have to do any special deals. I didn't have to do it in advance. I actually, what actually happened on the day was I missed my train due to traffic, and then I had to get another train, like 30 minutes later, and they didn't have any economy class tickets left, so I went first, and it was like $70, like crazy. It was super comfortable as well. I loved it, and they gave you free water and snacks and stuff. I was loving it.
Yeah, sounds good. I don't know why we don't just make so much more of a fuss in this country about like how we can improve our lives, because it's just like, I don't know what it's just apathy, or just like,
you know what
as a whole, like,
you know what, Road Dog, you should just hold your nerve. Hold your nerve.
Can't afford to put food on the table, but
hold your nerve.
Can't
afford your water bills. Hold your nerve. Can't afford your rent. Hold your nerve.
Yeah. There's a lady that rang into like LBC about that, and she said like she actually felt quite insulted by him saying that, just because like, oh, I'll just tell my daughter that when I can't afford like to buy her school shoes, to don't worry, you hold your nerve, and if I can't afford to like give her a proper meal, just hold your nerve. Like, how patronising? It's more than patronising. It's just so. It's like punching someone in the face, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Like, sorry, you have to put up with it. That's what he's saying. Put up and shut up.
Mm.
And I just don't. I don't get why. Like, people are miserable, like, rightly, about everything. Like, people say, and like it's been acknowledged that like Britain is just a broken country, even by like fairly right wing media presenters. Like, yeah, like everything doesn't work, but like, what are we going to like do if we don't have like a functioning opposition who are like just not going to do anything about it? Then what hope do we have? Like,
Well,
it's
No, my answer to that is that the hope is actually in ordinary people. I think who's listening to people to learn here? Because most people, that's not very patronising here, but most people in this country don't do anything, and they sit and wait for something to happen. And people need to learn to actually do something that to have a positive impact themselves. Whether it could be as little as volunteering or just smiling at someone. But the thing is, people are so
apathetic.
feel so downtrodden and don't want to do it. But I think there's an attitude problem, and I think how we modelled our economy and our town and cities over the last 30 years, people don't talk as much anymore. Very isolated in our communities. I think if people get together much more, I think that would change a lot. But I certainly don't think
this is done on purpose, right? You know, this is done on purpose. Your enemy isn't your government; it's your next door neighbour. This is done on purpose. This is the colonialism 101, right?
It's like when
how do you think we managed hold the entirety of India with just a handful of soldiers and a few police, right? We pitted them against each other, quite simply, and you can see that because as soon as we left India, how it all got split up. You know, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, blah blah blah. They all literally split. But when we were colonizing it, it was one India, and the only way we did that was by pitting the Muslims against the Sikhs, the Sikhs against the Hindus, and that's how we did it. And they're doing the same thing to us.
But the thing is, though, like, you can go and, well, barely protest these days. And even if you do and go on strike even, and like if you're like a worker who like is sick and tired of how things are and you want a pay rise and you just want things to work as they should and you want the bus to turn up on time, etc. And you see like strikes and you see protests, and then you just see how like pretty much futile they are, because like if the government wants to, it can just turn around and be like, no, and not do anything and be like, well, they're the ones causing the problems, and they just need to suck it up and do what we say because they're not being reasonable. Like,
with the entirety of the British media behind them as well.
Yeah. What can you do, like, other than start being very violent, which is like the very end of the road? And then once you start being violent, it's like, well, look at these lefties, woke, liberal Marxists. They're being violent. Like they're causing all this like civil unrest, and they're breaking into shops. And it's their fault. They're the troublemakers.
When diplomacy fails, violence becomes inevitable, right?
Yeah.
And you know, people are getting pissed off with the lack of action of diplomatic sources. So, you know, violence will become inevitable.
I'm starting to think it will, and that's quite scary.
Look what's happening in France.
Yeah.
Well,
they do that regular, so.
Yeah, they don't take any shit, the French, man. They really don't take any shit.
I think rioting is a national pastime in France. It's incredibly common. But it's not in this country. And if you do see the riots, which I think I think it's likely. It's a massive sign of how people feel.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Absolutely.
But it's in my opinion of the overall situation. I think we need a good. Ideally, we need a government that's actually going to try something different against what is considered the norm for a very very long time. I think um to deal with modern challenges, I think it needs to be very, very different. I don't necessarily think. I think we need to readjust everything how we do things. We need. I think if we go the way Jeremy Corbyn would go, I think the markets will shut it down.
Yeah. Actually,
And
that was an interesting thing.
like I did to Liz Truss. I don't agree
Yeah,
with Liz Truss, but I think the market will do the same. If
that's
anyone can
that's
do.
that's what really scared me. Like what Liz Truss did was fucking nutty, right? But the fact that she was forced out by the markets, right, rather than her own party, right, and the markets basically forced the party's hand and said, "Look, Liz, you got to go. You got to resign." Right? Who do we want making policy? Is it elected officials or the markets? Right?
Mm.
That's what scares me about what
Yeah.
happened to Liz Truss. I mean, she was fucking batshit crazy, right? Everybody knows that. She is batshit crazy. Sorry, using past tense. She still is, right? She's still like, but you know, the fact that she tried something radical and the markets went no, and then she got kicked out of office, then yeah, that scares the shit out of me. That means that this one house of democracy that we have is fallible to the markets.
It's
Okay.
fallible to more than just markets. It's
Oh,
fallible to media class, donor class. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. This one electable house that we have, like I said, is being pulled in four directions. Well, not four specifically different directions, but it means that if they want to, they can upset democracy. I know the election of Liz Truss is slightly different because that's an internal election, right?
Yeah.
And I think it would be a bit different if she was elected in a general election. I don't know how that, because then that person would be elected in on a manifesto and to carry it through. So whatever the markets did, well, it's like they have a mandate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So say if in 2017 Jeremy Corbyn did get elected, and I know people on the left were saying, well, there could have been a similar market response to what Liz Truss did. I know Michael Walker and Navarra Media commented on this. It's like, well, this is what I would expect the markets to do. But at least Jeremy Corbyn would have had a mandate from the people. So fuck the markets, right? Because he's got a mandate. Whereas Liz Truss didn't have a mandate from the people. She had an internal mandate. So make of that what you will.
Yeah. I was going to say as well, just to welcome men as well. But what I wanted to say is what I think the most ideal scenario for a general election result for me at this point in time would be for Labour to be the largest party, but to have to rely on both the Greens and the Lib Dems for extra support. I think that's what I want at the moment, because I think if I just don't feel like Labour are enough, because the Lib Dems and the Greens are going to want PR, and if that's what it takes to get PR, then Labour are going to have to be forced down that road. That's what I would rather.
Sadly, hello everyone. By the way, sadly, I don't think
It's been a long time.
It has been a long time, Chi, and sorry for the background. I just got out from the train station buying a ticket for tomorrow's work, so there might be still some cars in the background, but I hope you don't mind too much. But I think the biggest problem at the moment is that, given the current polling, it's very unlikely that we are to get a hung parliament, as the Labour Party has been consistently around 15 to 20 points in the lead, and those pollings indicate that they're about to get some sort of either decent sized majority or even Blair landslides levels at the moment, meaning that they're unlikely to have a sort of hung parliament where the Lib Dems force them to do like demands like PR or other social issues.
Isn't it really bizarre that we're actively saying, like, I don't really want Labour to get like, after all this time, isn't it? It's just really weird. Like, I don't want Labour to win under Starmer.
Well, when it was under Corbyn, you had all these at least decent social and domestic policies that you can kind of get behind from, like, you know, nationalisation, support for funding for the NHS, and the civil rights stuff that you could probably at least trust under someone like Corbyn, given his history. But with Starmer, it's like you can't really trust what he says, because he says one thing and then a couple of weeks later he goes back on that promise.
Yeah.
Let's see, his ideology.
Nice things.
Sorry. And his ideology seems to be just like, screw anything that Corbyn did.
Anything or anybody associated with Corbyn.
Like anything that Corbyn supported, even if it was genuinely popular, is bad. That is just literally, I think, Starmer's current mindset. So it's very unlikely, at the very least, that Labour's going to have to rely on the Lib Dems to get them into government. The only way I can see that happening is if, like, over time, people become a bit more deluded with Labour, and you sort of get a sort of Charles Kennedy situation where people start going to the Lib Dems as an alternative, that they get enough seats that one of the two main parties needs them again for like some sort of vote agreement to run the government and all that stuff. But will only really be the Lib Dems, really, due to the fact that I think, given the fact that Caroline Lucas is stepping down for the Greens, the Greens are unlikely to lose their only seat. And even though the Greens have become quite effective as a local force, they have yet to really get on the national stage due to first past the post. And I don't really see them gaining ground just yet, though it might happen in the following at least another decade or two.
They're making a lot of gains in the local elections, like council elections. And I'm hopeful,
as we said earlier, you know, they doubled their seats in council elections in the last.
They're quite popular in like the southwest sort of Stroud, Bristol areas.
The most shocking thing for me, around in my area of Hertfordshire, is the fact that in East Herts they gained 16 Green councillors and became the largest party there, when that place is dominated by Tories.
Wow, that's a big shift.
Yeah. So well, granted, what kind of party the Greens will be if in more national stage, I don't know, because they seem to be becoming a bit more appealing to NIMBY type of voters at the moment, at least in the Tory areas. But I don't think.
Okay, I have a question. I have a question for the panel. Right, how significant is this SNP collapse? Because this is going to be vitally important. Because as I said before, this is 50 seats that Labour can essentially claw back. How many of those 50 seats do you think they will get in the next general election?
Well, to be fair, the SNP took 40 seats off of Labour from Scotland.
Sorry.
Let's see, at least.
But it's
10
potentially. Potentially.
Well, I don't think, despite the SNP collapsing, they do have this strong support of Scottish nationalists that will vote for them no matter what, because they believe in independence. So I don't think we'll ever see a permanent collapse of the SNP, since Scottish nationalism has risen over the years due to like the the delusion they had with New Labour, let's see, Brexit, and a few other factor issues. But I can see, due to like the scandals that the SNP are currently in, they will lose support amongst the more, I guess you could say, swing voters or not committed, let's see, Scottish, Indian, and all that stuff. There are people that might consider it if they think the union's going bad, but I think due to the fact that the Tories are probably guaranteed to collapse and the SNP's own issues right now, Labour's at least guaranteed at least 10 to 20 seats come Scotland the next election.
You think so? Yeah, I was going to say around 15. So yeah, we're in the same ballpark. What do you think, Cameron? Okay, Cameron, good job.
Right, I was thinking then. With the SNP,
Right.
I think they certainly reached their peak. And in terms of Labour, it's hard to gauge how well they do. I could easily see Labour winning like 10, 15 seats.
In Scotland.
Yeah, I sort of think fairly similar to Cam. It's hard to sort of say pre-election, but I do think that Nicola Sturgeon was like SNP.
She was pivotal. She was
Yeah.
pivotal. Like.
She did quite a lot to like change the sort of landscape of.
Well, yeah, she was popular despite how many haters she has, even with like her opponents or even just unionists in general. She was, regards to many people, a quite effective leader, and even when she didn't have, even that when her worst electoral performances were still better than the other parties by miles, and in many ways, she sort of made the party into a more permanent, dominant force during her era. And also, compared to like all the other leaders that have come and gone for the last, let's see, since after 2015, she's been the one that has mostly been there the longest, because you had Cameron resigning over Brexit, May resigning over Brexit, Johnson over Partygate scandals, Liz Truss due to her own poorly planned economics and the markets turning against her, and Rishi Sunak is likely to lose the next election. While Corbyn, due to Labour infighting, couldn't deal with the British issues of Brexit and the accusations of anti-Semitism within its own party. And let's see, Tim Farron, due to the scandals about his beliefs and like LGBT stuff. And of course, Jo Swinson, because, well, she was a terrible leader.
Shit. She was just shit. I mean, let's just face it. That's right as well. Yeah. Yeah. Road Dog.
Yeah. We're talking about the SNP still, aren't we?
But yeah, arguably you could say Sturgeon was probably the second most successful female leader in UK politics, which arguably, yes, that means Thatcher is, not saying Thatcher's good, but she was successful in her, career, which unfortunately bad news for us.
It depends. Yeah. It depends how the new First Minister Hamza
Youssef, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's still early days, but if I were to make a prediction, if Labour were to gain Scotland seats, not very much, between 5 and 10, I'd say.
Oh wow, okay.
So not that much.
It'd be interesting.
They've already got quite a strong foothold, and I don't think that will suddenly change. So.
Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say it depends on what happens with this court case. This loss of money. Like, what was it? £500,000 went missing. That was supposed to be spent on a bus. That wasn't spent on the bus.
Is that what Nicola Sturgeon was arrested for, or was that something?
Yeah. Yeah, it was her husband first, and then her. But they'll both released without charge. So who knows what's going on there? It depends on the ripples throughout the party. I really think if they really want to take Scotland, Labour. There needs to be a customs arrangement, because I think on the bottom end of the scale as well, I think that there are some seats that Labour are counting on that they shouldn't necessarily count on, because they are thinking that if they do 2017 politics, that they'll get the red wall back. And I think that's not necessarily true, because the demographic has changed.
Well, to be honest, I don't really think that Labour even wants to do 2017 levels of politics. They seem to think, regardless of whatever era of Corbyn, be it 2019 or 2017, it was toxic and bad.
Sorry, I meant 97. Sorry, not 17. 97. Yeah, 97 politics.
Yeah. Well, they'll probably think that. Now, granted, whether or not that's, will work in Scotland, I don't know. But it seems like, for them, it seems like it'll be working with England and all that stuff. And as a result, they're probably likely to stick to it, even when people once again get deluded with that style of politics, like they did around 2005 to 2008.
Mm.
Because sadly, due to the fact that Blair's been the only Labour leader to actually win an election in the last 50 years, though you could argue Corbyn was probably the closest to winning an election besides him, though they would try and excuse that as like issues of Brexit or Theresa May being a poor leader, but regardless of the circumstances, he is arguably the closest.
Well, okay, yeah. He was the closest. Now, you need to understand that although Theresa May was seen as a failure, she still got more votes than Cameron in 2015, right? So she improved the vote count, right? Yeah. And now
Labour also improved the vote count as well.
Yeah, biggest vote count since 1945, right? So, or biggest swing, should I say?
Yeah.
The fact that they won't reinstill Jeremy Corbyn because of the votes in 2019, right, which is bullshit. Notice in his explanation, right, there's nothing about anti-Semitism, right? Nothing. It's just about his poor vote count in 2019, right? He got more votes than than Miliband in 2015, so that's bullshit again, right? So it's very, very strange. I just wanted to point those things out.
Ideologically, they just want him gone. They all dislike him. They hated his policies. They hated his leadership. They hated. It lost even.
Nothing wrong with the policies. The policies taken individually are very popular.
Yeah.
But
But I just don't understand why. Like, it's almost as if Starmer is just trying to push people away on purpose by all these pledge U-turns and backtracking. And it's there's so many, like we were saying right at the start, there's so many opportunities for him to score big goals, and he's either missing them or just not taking them. And one example is the whole water issue, and the sewage issue, where he could easily turn around to people and be like, yeah, Thames Water and the people of Kent, aren't you really fed up of all this shitty water that's being pumped into your rivers? And aren't you really fed up of having the pumps turned off so you can't water your gardens? Are you really sick to death of all of this chaos? I'm going to do something about it, and I'm going to put them into public ownership. And you could come out and say that, and people would be like, actually, yeah, I agree with what he's saying, and it would not have a really very negative effect, because most people actually want that. But instead, he'll just sit on his hands and do nothing. He's scared that if he does say or do something, then someone's going to have a go and be like, oh, Marxist over here wants to nationalise everything. It's like, well, actually, no, I just want to nationalise water companies because it makes sense to do so.
Well, I have a question about that. Are there any members of Starmer's cabinet that are paid off, or at least by private water companies? Because
probably.
I remember that one of the because that might prevent them from doing it because, well, those MPs being paid off won't support it and sabotage it. Because I remember that one of the Change UK MPs, I believe Angela Smith, was actually supported by a private water company.
And then didn't she then go and work for that water company once she lost her seat?
Yes, I believe possibly. I'm not sure.
He was the
I think
on Politics Live that said funny tinge people.
Yeah, the tinges.
She's back in the Labour Party.
Oh no. She's back in the Labour Party. Yeah, Angela Smith is back in the Labour Party.
So is Mike Gapes.
Yeah, much to my fury.
They probably found it a more hospitable.
Yeah. It's like
yeah, there's no space. Yeah, there's no space for Jeremy Corbyn or Diane Abbott. Honestly.
Oh yeah. They'll try and get rid of as many of those left-wing MPs as they could, despite
This is fucking Peter Mandelson, honestly. Mandelson, friend of Jeffrey Epstein. Mandelson.
And also, can we talk about Rosie Duffield and why
Rosie Duffield?
Yeah, like she's been making these massive transphobic tweets about. I think there was an ITV news report of they were talking about the reporting on the cost of living crisis. I didn't actually watch it. I just sort of heard snippets, and they had a transgender who identified as a woman, a mother who was just like doing her washing and saying, "This is how difficult it is for me and my kids because I can't pay my bills, etc." And like this current sitting Labour MP Rosie Duffield decided to like spout off on Twitter about how outraged she was, how it made no sense that this transgender woman like shouldn't be allowed to like exist or like be featured on a news report, which had nothing to do with like her gender. She was just talking about the cost of living crisis and like her general situation. She's like, how ITV, oh my goodness, like she shouldn't be allowed to be talking about this. They should have just used a normal person. And like, how dare she like call herself a mother when she blatantly isn't a woman? Like that's nothing to do with the actual context of the report. She's
it's like I mean, it's an issue that's affecting everyone. I mean, if you put like a black, Muslim, Jewish, or even just any working class person, they'd probably say the same thing this trans woman you described said.
She's not had any like disciplinary action taken against her. She's just nasty. And
yeah.
Well, being a TERF is perfectly fine in the Labour Party.
Which is why I think in the next couple of years, probably even when Labour does get into government next year, you're likely to have a lot of the LGBT community, which the Labour Party had built up under Blair with some trust and all that stuff, will probably turn back towards like other parties like the Lib Dems and maybe Greens when
Greens probably.
Yeah, but I think probably
like, it's just the hypocrisy of like other Labour members just getting expelled for dumb, stupid reason. Like even like Jewish people who are like pro-Palestine are getting kicked out of the party and being disciplined. Right. When you've got people like Rosie Duffield who nothing is happening to, even though she's like chucking out all this horrendous transphobic language on Twitter.
I don't know if you should quote me on this because I've heard it, but I cannot confirm. But I have heard rumors that apparently under Starmer, you've had more regular Jewish members kicked out of the Labour Party more than any other leader.
That's correct.
But,
yeah.
Mostly
Yeah.
because
Do you remember when they said that Liverpool is a broad church?
Yeah.
yeah, I've always found that, to be honest, BS.
And the same people that insisted on that are the ones that are doing this.
Well, to be honest, Cameron, I think I've always found that BES from them, because they'll say it when you have other factions of the Labour Party considering whether or not they should be booted out. But as soon as or when there's a leader that they're in, they say broad church, broad church. But when you get someone like Corbyn, they'll kick and scream like a bunch of spoilt brats and say, "We don't want this guy. He's not with the broad church, or he's not for our values." Blah blah blah, whatever. They'll complain and whine until he's gone.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
It's a lot about the Labour Party, but I think the Conservative Party is more of a church at this point. Honestly,
Let's see.
I think Tory members have more freedom to say what they want and to believe what they want, unlike in the Labour Party, which is
Sorry.
incredibly authoritarian, which is a very sad state of affairs.
Well, to be honest, Cameron, I'm pretty certain that once the Conservatives lose the next election, you're probably going to have massive infighting, like what happened after they lost 1997, which will probably mean that Starmer stays in longer than we probably would like.
Yo, Rowan.
I don't.
Rowan, NA wants to join the panel.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find a way to post the link. I don't know if I can post it in the comments.
No, don't put it in the comments. Do they have are they on the Bullet Club?
I don't think they are, have they?
Does he have a Twitter account that he can message you and you can send it there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be the
we do
safest thing.
NA. So like my Twitter handle is @romids. So just follow me and I'll PM you the that way.
So I'm quite looking forward to watching this movie. It's called Oh, Jeremy Corbyn.
Is that the one that was supposed to go in Glastonbury but got banned because of accusations of anti-Semitism?
And then it got played anyway. They did a they went all fucking covert and played it anyway. So that's quite interesting. Have you seen the trailer from last year? It looks good. It's narrated by Alexei Sayle, Jewish person. Okay, granted, from communist upbringing, but yeah, Jewish.
Not on Twitter.
Not on Twitter.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's called The Big Lie. Yeah, exactly right. Oh, Jeremy Corbyn, The Big Lie.
Yeah. Interesting to watch that. Yeah, I think it got played like at 1 a.m. in a tent somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I imagine it's gonna be something similar to The Witch Hunt. You know, so
I watched
imagine.
what was it? The
Al Jazeera papers.
Yeah, the little documentaries that Al Jazeera put out on YouTube of what was it called? I've forgotten what it's called. Like the Labour Files, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Those were quite revealing.
Made me sick.
Was that the one where revealed that anti-Semitism is used for political means to undermine Corbyn?
Yeah.
Yeah, and other stuff like Labour councillors and members were like hounded by more right-wing sort of people in the party, certain individuals that were like just harassing people for saying, being too outspoken on sort of Palestine amongst other things. It was quite upsetting actually, like just how people were being treated.
Hey, NA, yes, I will talk about South Korean politics, just not tonight. Sorry, I can't access my Chamchi Gimbap YouTube thing. I've been doing some computer stuff, but the facts that the interviews with what's his name, Martin Ford, Casey, the fact that he was commissioned to do the report, he released the report, and he's not been contacted since. Right? I think the report was not Keith's. It's not what Keith was expecting.
Not you mean not going to his liking and let's see biases and all that stuff? Is that what you're implying?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't. That the Labour Party in the Labour Party there is a hierarchy of racism. And the last thing you want to be known as is a racist party. And the thing is, if you're black, or if you're Asian, if you're anything other than Jewish, or even if you're all these things and on the left, then you're
if you are Jewish and you're on the left, or you're like pro-Palestine, and you call out the things that are happening that are wrong, that makes you the wrong kind of Jew, or self-hating Jew. Has anybody out of interest seen one of David Baddiel's most recent tweets?
No. Are you talking about that centrist that was kicked out, or?
No, I covered that actually before, but so basically David Baddiel took it upon himself to tweet something about, I think, the Pope like hosted all of these sort of culture, like members of like the arts.
Sure.
In I don't know if it's the Vatican or some other place, to like celebrate their talent and ability to like spread like truth amongst propaganda, etc., etc. So like David Baddiel took exception because Ken Loach was amongst that party of people that the Pope invited.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, Ken Loach is like an anti-Semite because," and I'll find this tweet. Hang on a minute.
But he's not.
No, but he's such a crybaby about stuff. It's just like he's just like, I'm a victim all the time. And
didn't he write a book about being a victim?
Yeah, I think it's called Jews Don't
I'm a
Kill
Victim.
or something. Yeah. I'm a victim. Where is it?
But it's okay for him to wear blackface and a pineapple on his
head.
head.
I know, exactly.
Wait, did he actually do that?
Yeah. It was years ago, but so
I apologise for that stuff.
He did, but I never saw the apology. I've seen the original video. It was when he was doing the football show with. So this is like late 90s. So Baddiel and Skinner, they did the football thing.
And yeah. And I replied to him just saying, "Why are you so hateful?" Because he just seems to just dislike anybody and everybody who like
By the way,
is not in his sphere of like.
While you're searching for that, I kind of also wondering if you heard about this.
I've got it now.
Okay, never mind.
Sorry. Yeah, I'll just say this and then I'll let you carry on. But yeah, so basically the other day he tweeted. So in relation to this Ken Loach being at the Vatican Catholic thing, not sure an audience with the Pope, given the Catholic Church is an institution that only absolved Jews for the crime of deicide in 2011, should be considered a litmus test for who might or might not be anti-Semitic. That's why. Why do you need to say that? And it's basically saying the Pope is anti-Semitic. Really?
Actually, the current Pope is famously left wing, right?
Well, I'm not sure if he's necessarily left wing, but he's arguably the most progressive Pope that we have ever had.
Did you watch the movie about this current Pope?
No, I haven't heard there's a movie about him.
Yeah, it's yeah, he's considering like the last Pope was quite right wing, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, this Pope is more
But it's just
way
like,
more progressive.
if you dare like speak or interact with anybody whom I disagree with or consider to be anti-Semitic, even though they're not, then by association you are also an anti-Semite. And it's just like how did you get there? That's like a massive overreach.
Oh,
I just don't understand, like, why, like, you just see yourself as this like continuous victim of like some imagined, well, I know I don't want to obviously call it imagined because it's very much not in a lot of cases, but with this guy it's like, it's almost like you're wanting to see anti-Semitism where it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that to be.
And it what it does is it casts a shadow over true anti-Semitism. You know, when the far right are being really anti-Semite, true anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
Right? When they're attacking the left for anti-Semitism, when it really isn't. All we're doing is talking about, you know, the plight of the people on the Gaza Strip, for example, and like all the media attention is on us when this truly anti-Semite, anti-racist, ultra-nationalist part of Europe, for instance, Marine Le Pen's party just keeps getting, on every election, she gets more and more votes, right? It was so close between her and what's his name? Macron. Yes, I wanted to say Macron, but no, it's Macron. Yeah. There got so close between. They were the final two. So you know, it's allowing this far right fever to an ultra nationalism to fester, because they're not being attacked. They're not. There's no sunlight being broadcast on them, right? Because they're in the shadows. Right, but we are being attacked. It's the left,
yeah,
right? For anti-Semitism.
Well, that happened to Corbyn. You got Boris Johnson and all the mess that followed him afterwards. So yeah. But yeah.
There we go. There we go.
But yeah.
There we go. Under Boris Johnson, actually, right? Whether you like him or not, right? Which obviously everybody in this panel fucking hates, but you know, whether you like him or not, as a person, I believe he was very liberal, right? But he will take on any political position that will get him more power.
Yeah.
And he has moved the Conservative Party from a David Cameron centre right to basically almost a far right demagogian kind of party. You know, that's when I say demagogian, it's someone that wants to retain power through the use of fear, right? Stop the boats. Where do you think this fucking comes in? It's like these people are coming across and they're trying to steal your jobs, your society, right? This is demagogian rhetoric, which is from the 30s, from Suella Braverman. It is from the 30s, right? And this is scary shit, man. This is scary shit. You know, the attacks that she's had on the ability to demonstrate. Oh yeah, you can demonstrate, but it's not allowed to be annoying.
Yeah.
You're allowed to demonstrate, but it's not allowed to cause hurrah.
Yeah.
You're allowed to demonstrate, but you're not allowed to cause an inconvenience. Then what you're doing is you're taking away the point of demonstration. Right?
That's what they want, though. They don't want anyone to be seen to disagree with their agenda.
Exactly right. Back to my original point. This is demagogia.
Well, I think I've heard recently that the Rwanda, the Rwanda thing, the migrants won their court case recently in that. So I guess you could have a victory on that, but I think you've got.
I think that's just a temporary thing because they're going to appeal it anyway.
Yeah,
and the only thing that they disagreed on was the fact that the people organising it in Rwanda just needed to make it a safer environment.
Right.
That was
yeah.
Intention, really.
That's the thing. It's like you can send them to any other country, just not Rwanda, and it's just like, well, it's yes, it's a victory, but it's a small victory, and the war's not won yet. So
we'll say at least try and build up on the small victories. I'd say. So we can get something big in the future, but still, I'm just saying on that regards, but
so just a reminder, or I guess just to let you know, I'm probably going to wrap this stream up in about 10 minutes because we're hitting the 3 hours.
The 3 hour mark. So
speaking.
There's just one thing I just want to bring up. I've heard recently that someone that's either on the centre left or centrist has recently been booted out of Labour because of a tweet apparently of saying support the Greens or a Lib Dem. Let's see, in a local election back in.
I spoke about that.
Let's see.
You all weren't here. I was talking about it.
Okay, so but I think it goes to show that.
Yeah.
Neil Lawson, is that right?
Let's see. Once going from targeting the left, it seems I wouldn't be surprised in the future he starts going after more of the soft or centre left parts of the Labour Party that he disagrees with. So we'll probably get the party becoming a bit more Blairite before it's even remotely left wing again.
Okay. I've got a question because as we got 7 minutes left, so. Question to the panel. There's an election tomorrow. Who are you going to vote for? Host?
I got asked this question earlier in the chat by somebody, but I think I'd have to vote tactically because I can vote no other way really, other than because my constituency is heavily a Tory safe seat, so I would just have to vote for the only party that has a chance of getting in, which the year before the 2019 general election I thought was Labour, because even though they were quite far behind, it was still Labour were the party behind the Tories, but then now I think Lib Dems have a stronger chance now, so probably.
So you're gonna vote yellow?
Well, this might.
I can see Lib Dems getting back to when they were the 2010s, 50 seats. 50,
I
they
think
don't even have to try though. Really, they're not even.
I think they're more likely to get on the 20 and 30s just at the moment. You know, the the early Blair years. I think they'll get more to the 50s and 60s when people get a bit more deluded with Starmer's Labour or whoever succeeds him, which seems to be likely West Streeting, but
fucking West Streeting, he makes me puke, honestly.
But
so who are you gonna vote for?
Well, since you might be surprised, Champy, I'm still a member of the Labour Party, mostly just due to local issues, but I guess I'll probably have an obligation to vote Labour nationally, though I think I'll be very reluctant. I might be a bit more enthusiastic for local.
I don't know. Is your MP Labour?
No, it's a Tory. It's been a safe Tory seat since 1997. The closest it's the closest it's ever been to Labour was back in 1997 when it was quite close marginal, but that was just about it. I mean, Hertfordshire is not exactly known to be anything
progressive. Yeah, that's Tory heartland, man.
Yeah, it tends to be very Tory heartland. The only exception was like the Blair years, where half the seats went Labour, and arguably Stevenage is technically a Labour town, but it does have a lot of villages that vote Tory around it, so a part of the constituency. But yeah, though granted, St Albans has become a bit more Lib Dem, and in terms of county council wise, the Lib Dems are more of the main opposition. So who knows? But yeah. But at the moment, I'm likely to probably be voting probably Labour, and I don't really, even though I probably won't be that enthusiastic, though. But yeah.
Who's your Labour MP?
I don't have one, like I said.
Oh no. Who's the MP that will?
Tory MP? Are you talking about? Oliver Hurl.
I have no idea who that is.
It's a very minor. It's a very minor MP. Only had like a few shadow cabinet positions back when they were in the opposition against Blair, to be honest. But yeah, you aren't likely. But it's like arguably no one important is probably going to be a part of my seat. But yeah, but likely you probably get like maybe let's see, Stevenage going back to Labour, maybe Watford, and maybe Wellingham City with Grant Shapes being beaten. That's actually my mother's MP. But yeah. Let's see, but yeah.
All right, Cameron.
All right. It's a very hard one there. I'm kind of not to vote at all.
Really?
No. If you're not going to vote, at least turn up and spoil your ballot paper. None of the above.
And the thing is, I'm in the marginal. The marginal now.
Ooh.
Oh, that's so then you have to vote.
Yeah, you have to vote.
I've got no sympathy to vote. None at all now. It's going to be very hard to convince me to vote.
Who's your MP currently?
Nick Fletcher.
Is he Labour or is he
Tory?
Wait, you never heard of Nick Fletcher? Oh,
no.
Is that the one?
No, I don't know Nick Fletcher. Who's Nick Fletcher?
Oh, go on, guess, John. Guess.
I believe that was a Tory MP you have there, but I think if I recall, your former MP was that one, like a Blair, like that one in 1997. I think, what was her name again?
Caroline Flint.
Yeah, Caroline Flint.
Oh.
That was your former MP.
I used to like Caroline Flint until she did that fucking interview in the Sun.
Right, but yeah, a lot of judgy things happening. But anyway, I won't be in that seat because of boundary changes. Because we all forgot.
Right.
No one's mentioned the boundary changes. The boundary changes. The boundary changes put me in John Healy's seat. But I nothing in me wants me to vote for John Healy or the likely Labour candidate in Don Valley if the boundaries don't change.
I mean, arguably, I think for most of us, let's see, Corbyn was at least the closest to our views or ideals that we're probably going to be enthusiastic for voting for a very long time when it comes to Labour leadership.
And if you don't know, Nick Fletcher was the MP who talks about male role models and the female doctor. There's quite a bit of controversy about a year or so ago.
Fair enough.
Oh.
Right.
I think I'm going to draw the stream to a close.
All right. The only thing I was probably going to ask you is see if you talked anything about Donald Trump, but I think you probably don't want to do that for this stream.
No, that's an hours-long conversation at least.
Topics today, but that could be a stream for another time.
All right, it's been fun, guys.
yeah, thanks all for watching and tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the like button and the bell to get notified for future videos. I'm really close to 200 subscribers. I know it's a really mediocre number, but hit the subscribe button and all the rest of it. And yeah,
thank you, Rowan. Thank you, everybody.
Since I've been on one of your streams.
Thank you to the chat as well. It's been great.
Yeah. Real. Well, I hope to see you soon. And yeah, bye.
Bye for now.